So I want to talk to you today about consciousness in Dreamwork. And to do that, we have to go back in time a bit. And the impetus for me to do that kind of research was because I started using terms like subconscious and unconscious interchangeably in the teaching I was doing, and so were my students. And it dawned on me that I really didn't know what these words meant. I'd been a therapist for about a half dozen years, but that was a while ago, and so I looked up the definitions and the origins of these words. And it turns out there was a man named Pierre Genet, who, again, as a therapist, I probably should have heard of, but never did. And he is the man who came up with the idea of subconscious. And basically what he said it meant is that underneath the layers of critical thought functions of the conscious mind lay a powerful awareness. Okay, so if you look at that statement, it could be interpreted that really what he was defining was the difference between cognition and what we might call intuition, or all those aspects of our human experience that we can't really explain rationally. And so Freud was a contemporary of Genet's, and he loved this idea of subconscious and used it and credited Genet for it, etc. And then in about 1913 at a conference, Genet basically accused Freud of plagiarism. Basically that he said that he had just renamed a whole bunch of concepts that Genet had come up with. Obviously that did not go down well with Freud, and a year or so later he came up with the term unconscious. And his definition of unconscious was that it's the repository for socially unacceptable ideas, wishes or desires, traumatic memories, and painful emotions. That's typical Freud. You know, he basically saw the structure of the psyche as a way to keep us civilized, and that we had all these sort of base emotions that could erupt at any moment. So what we have to look at here is that we see that these terms really were invented by two white heterosexual guys from Western Europe. Why'd they do it? Well, you always have to look at the metaphor of the particular time in history. And in the beginning of the 20th century, we were really at the height of the industrial age. Machines had achieved a great deal of complexity by that time. And that was the metaphor of the time, the machine. So what do you do with a machine if it doesn't work? You take it apart and fix the pieces and parts and put it back together again. And this metaphor is not just obviously in psychiatry. We have found it in medicine and in science. And it's very productive in terms of dealing with acute disease, and very destructive in terms of dealing with the longer-term diseases or the chronic diseases like heart disease, etc. We're not going to go down that path. But it's just important to understand the origin of the idea that we have a subconscious. Now, sub means lesser or below, and un means not. So these guys were saying we had a lesser consciousness and we had something that wasn't even conscious. Okay. So as coaches, how do we deal with this? Well, we have to start from the basic container of what it means to work as a coach. We see people as naturally whole, creative, and resourceful. Okay? Naturally whole. Well, wholeness doesn't have stratifications to it. Wholeness is wholeness. And so my sense in terms of how we work with dreams is that we see people, we see our clients as conscious. They are conscious beings. And this idea really lends itself well to a lot of the concepts that are emerging in quantum physics, that everything's conscious, the universe is conscious. So what are we doing in coaching? Well, we're bringing aspects, we're actually helping the client to bring their own aspects of their consciousness into awareness. Because your consciousness is so vast, you'll never become completely aware of who you actually are. But as you step into the next larger version of yourself, and as we use powerful questions and active listening to help our clients do that, they're becoming aware of an aspect of their consciousness. It's not less conscious, it's not conscious, it's just something they weren't aware of before. And we know that when that occurs, there's a very powerful transformation that happens. So, why am I talking about any of this? Because when I tell people that I work with dreams, they often think that I am dealing with the subconscious, and I'm not. You know, I'm dealing with a whole human being who is actively becoming more aware of who they actually are and actively wanting and actually moving into the next larger version of themselves. So I think, as a former therapist, the brilliance of coaching is in its simplicity. It's profound in its simplicity. We ask questions and we actively listen. And regrettably in our culture, that's a very rare experience for most people. So, consciousness in coaching means that we see our clients as not only naturally whole, but we see them as conscious. So, I hope that was helpful. This is one of the ideas we talk about in the Dreamwork for Coaches course. And in a minute, there's going to be a slide that's going to show you the next one that's coming up. And if you view this video after that date, you can just go to the website, willsharon.com, and you'll get a list of when the courses are. I'd love to have you as a student. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.